Now, it's undeniable that there has been a massive increase with the amount of people curious about Wuthering Waves' lore since version 3.1 released. However, with this sudden interest comes a lot of those very same people confused about certain concepts in the story, like the Court of Savantae, for example. And I don't blame you guys, we haven't heard anything about this group since 1.x. So that's why today I'm going to be going over the Court of Savantae's history, their goals, the exiled group back in 1.x, the ruins across the game, and more. Tell me, what do you think about space? Do you wish to study the mysteries of the universe? Or how about the lament and its wave-worn phenomenons? You know, the retroactive rain, tacit fields, the etheric sea. Would you want to join the Court of Savantae to study these things? Well, unfortunately, the group disbanded, so yeah, that sucks. But seriously though, a lot of you must be curious about who and what the Court of Savantae was. Well, the Court of Savantae, or CSC for short, was a research organization that was spread throughout all of Solaris 3. Their entire purpose was to research the lament and the phenomena related to it. So, this includes the retroact rain, time fluctuations in Mount Firmament, and recently where we found out they were also researching the etheric sea back then. All of this led to so many inventions that they created due to their continuous research, like the Chronos sorters, the photon barriers, the flare chests, etc. As you can see, the Court of Savantae was dedicated to their mission and actually wanted to help the world of Solaris 3. Their scientists were also absolutely dedicated to their research and would stop at nothing to complete said research. I mean, just look at these notes I found at Truth Seeker's Pass in Mount Firmament. 903 failures trying to complete the first ever Chronos sorter would most definitely drive any regular person insane. By the way, this is the Chronos sorter. If you don't remember what it was, it's the thing that could rewind time. We also found out down here that they not only met Lord Arbiter, but also found Jue and something that's called the Mianglong Chamber, which is the pod Jue emerged out of after being delivered via an exostrider. There was also the fact that Jue has a sort of sickness that bypasses their immortality due to one of Jue's temporal programs being lost. Now, we have no idea what that program could be, but we do know that it allows Jue to manually manipulate time by rewinding it or accelerating it. There's also a lot more stuff, like if Jue died, the time flow in Mount Firmament would cover the entirety of Jinsho. Lord Arbiter had a major hand when it came to working on the Chronos sorter, and the CSC researchers were able to speak to Jue thanks to Lord Arbiter's help. So yeah, you can clearly see how they not only care about their research and inventions, but also wouldn't overstep their boundaries just for the sake of this research. But of course, there's also going to be a lot of other scientists that take their research a bit too far, all for the sake of some god. That's where we step into the Court of Savantae ruins, which is located in the Winding Ix's Mire in Huanglong. There are a group of expelled Court of Savantae researchers that took their research to the extreme. They were able to build their own location at the Winding Ix's Mire thanks to the patronage of some, and I quote, unidentified male Fraxidus overseer, because of course the Fraxidus would fund some lunatics. After searching through the ruins, you'll find a bunch of notes discussing something called SY-A038. The notes state that this thing was born from an artificial controllable tacit field and is being kept in that very same tacit field. They also stated that A038 didn't have a physical form and can only be seen through specialized means. Now, before we continue, A038 is a codename for Mech Abomination. This is pretty clear since right underground we can find Mech Abomination. However, the SY in this codename could easily mean SY track, which is a specific algorithm used in animal behavior monitoring studies to calculate movement or activity levels. It's usually used for tracking objects in videos and associating identities across frames. And seeing as MA didn't have a physical form back then, this makes all the more sense. Anyways, looking through some more notes, and we find out that 4 years have passed since they started working on the subject A038, aka Mech Abomination. The retroact rain has also been equally falling for 4 years, and we find out that they've been researching the retroact rain, and their research has entered its second phase. The notes also go on to say that the Mech Abomination, for some reason, visited the Winding Axe's mire, so that's why they chose this spot as their base. The research on the retroact rain also seems to be because they're trying to relive some sort of miracle and seek enlightenment. Now, I genuinely have no idea what they mean by miracle and enlightenment, but it seems as if these researchers saw something in the past that drove them to want to see it again. And after 37 failures of creating Mech Abomination, resulting in 37 deaths, A038 finally survives. However, they label Mech Abomination nothing more than an absurd imitation of God. Now, this successful version of Mech Abomination should be the one that's currently in the game. However, while I have no clue as to who they're specifically trying to replicate, we clearly do know that they're trying to bring back a potential deity through this experiment with Mech Abomination and the retroact rain. As we know, the retroact rain can create illusions of past events, and when the person has a strong emotional connection to the area affected by the retroact rain, then the illusions are much more intensified. If you think about it, they spotted one of the failure A038s heading to Winding Axe's mire, and if the Mech Abomination is supposed to be a god, then they believe that the god must have a deep connection to that location, so they decide to research the retroact rain since it can create illusions. And if this god's memories can be projected from the retroact rain, then they'll witness this miracle and be enlightened again. But that's all a theory after all. Anyways, the researchers end up reaching the final stage of their research, and things have been getting weird. Everyone's leaving one after another, and the one recording this note seemed to begin hearing whispers of some kind. They began talking to A038, and eventually they began seeing a gate. And through that gate, they saw all their colleagues are already on that side, but they're not welcoming him. They're warning them not to cross, as if something's going wrong. But they were finally able to witness their miracle. Now, the fate of the scientists are left in the air for speculation, but it's safe to assume that the Mech Abomination was the one who killed all the researchers in the lab. After all, the last thing this researcher in the notes was nearby was Mech Abomination, and seeing as Mech Abomination was supposed to be some god, then it's very likely it was absorbed into Mech Abomination. Now, I would like to say this is where the story ends for these extreme researchers, but I wasn't satisfied just yet. While at the ruins, I decided to explore the surrounding area and I found something. I found another base that belonged to these extreme researchers, and after solving the puzzles, I found more notes. And this time, we may have found the god they were talking about. Here we have subject C-2068. This is a new control subject they have their eyes set on, and they say that this control subject not only came from an underground galaxy, but their frequency fluctuation aligns with the Hay civilization. Now, there's only one person that comes to mind when I think of someone coming from an underground galaxy, and that's Shorekeeper. Since I rewatched Life Lessons video on the Hay civilization, the only place that matches this description is the Black Shores. And since Life Lessons theorized that Shorekeeper was also created by the Hay civilization, then it makes all the more sense for this control subject to be Shorekeeper. We can also sort of back this up because of the fact that they wanted to capture the control subject and analyze their frequency. But yes, the Hay civilization may very well be this expelled group's whole purpose. Some time ago, the Hay civilization performed a miracle that they were able to witness thanks to the retroact rain. And when they found out that Shorekeeper has the same frequency fluctuation like the Hay civilization, they'd stop at nothing to achieve their goal. However, it seems as if throughout this quest for knowledge, the very same god they built eventually led to their unfortunate demise. Potential years pass after the fall of the Court of Savantae at the Winding Axe's mire, and the young Zhang Liao has made it into these ruins looking for any leads on his father. He notices how everything inside these ruins have been preserved rather well, with a lot of the technology having subtle differences compared to Huanglong's tech. Zhang Liao, who is currently excited and drunk off of knowledge, records everything he can and comes to the conclusion that the CSC group was trying to make some sort of gateway. Zhang Liao, after exploring the ruins, theorizes that the Court of Savantae researchers were trying to use this gateway to possibly get into contact with the civilization that transformed those ruins. We then find out that Zhang Liao actually activated the gateway at the price of his arm. This was the price everyone must pay for knowledge they have no understanding of. They tried creating a gateway to see the He civilization, only to be met with the loss of their lives. So let me ask you this. Would you step into danger for a taste of knowledge? Anyways, that's gonna be it for the video. Now, I know you're wondering why I didn't talk about the Court of Savantae satellite station in 3.1. And that's actually because I literally could not find any sort of notes at all while exploring the satellite station. I literally looked everywhere I could and there was absolutely nothing. So I'm hoping since we're going back to the satellite station with Luke's story, we may be able to get more information and hopefully some notes while we're at it. But anyways, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. My Discord server is live right now, so please go check that out whenever you can. Let me know your thoughts about the Court of Savantae, and don't hesitate to correct me if you found any mistakes in today's video. And I'll be seeing you all in the next Wuthering Waves video. Signing off.
'Cause I've been so tired. I don't wanna fight, but you're a liar. I need your help, cause the situation's dire. I'm so sick of using people to get higher. Yeah, we can take a pill.